Thank you, Honorable Abdel Nasser. Now let me call the second opposer, Honorable Yahya.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good evening, everyone. The opposers, proposers, and everyone around. Today, we have a very interesting motion that states Uganda, as a landlocked country sharing a border with Kenya, should have been granted the right to own and share access to the Indian Ocean with Kenya. And that is a two-way road. They can either go the peaceful way or they can go the hard way, in which they will destroy themselves and all the neighbors around them. In order for Uganda to gain the sea or the Indian Ocean, they can do it in peaceful means. Now, if they do not wish to do so, as the President, His Excellency said, I want my ocean, he said, here are some of the disadvantages that Uganda as a whole can gain from doing such a thing. First, it violates national sovereignty. Granting Uganda ownership or sovereign access to the Indian Ocean requires ceding Kenyan territory or waters. This will undermine Kenya's sovereignty and territorial integrity, principles that are protected under international law and the UN Charter. No country is obligated to surrender its territory simply because a neighbor is landlocked. Now, there's also something that I noticed in the map that Honorable Sama used. Here, as you can see here, Uganda does not only neighbor Kenya, but also Tanzania. I think we all forgot about Tanzania here. If they do so, they can go and attack Kenya, but that would violate UN Charter. Or they could go for Tanzania, and I think there's Burundi or another country here. Now, either way, which way they choose, it will be a disadvantage for them. And in East Africa, whereby Uganda and Kenya, the two countries that have one of the best relationships in the entirety of Africa, they cannot ruin such a thing. Now, going to my second view will be international law already provides landlocked countries. The UN Convention on Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and related international agreements already guarantee landlocked states that they have freedom of transit, access from the sea, and use of ports. Uganda already lawfully uses ports like Mombasa in Kenya and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It does not require ownership in any way of the ocean to take trade internationally. My third view, economically and logistically unnecessary. Uganda's trade patterns show that existing transport corridors, the Northern Corridor, Central Corridor, they already connect to global markets. What Uganda needs is improved infrastructure, not territorial access to the ocean. My third view, it could destabilize regional politics. Redrawing borders or granting maritime territory to a landlocked country could do the following. It could destabilize preceding the entirety of East Africa. Or second, it could create territorial disputes in a region that already works toward integration. And thirdly, it could undermine East African Community or the EAC focus on cooperation over territorial renegotiation. Now, if the two countries that founded the East African Community decided to fight all of a sudden, what does that as an image show of the East African Community as a whole? It would be bad, wouldn't it be? So, my fourth view, access does not require ownership. Many landlocked countries like Switzerland, Austria, Rwanda, and even Ethiopia successfully trade internationally without owning a coastline. Ownership is unnecessary when access can be guaranteed through treaties, infrastructure, and regional cooperation. Now, in conclusion, what do I say? What do we get from all of this? Uganda does not need to own or control part of the Indian Ocean to secure economic growth. International law and regional agreements already provide a sufficient guarantee that guarantees territorial ocean rights would violate Kenya's sovereignty, risk regional tensions, and offer little practical benefit. And at the end, looking back at the clip that His Excellency said, how do we know? Maybe he was joking in the end. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable, for telling us that Uganda doesn't need to own or control Indian Ocean. Now let me call the last proposer, Honorable Yahya.
Thank you, Chairperson. Today in front of you is Yahya Abdi Ibrahim, ready to propose the motion which says Uganda as an unlocked country sharing a border with Kenya should be granted the right to own and share access to Indian Ocean with Kenya. Before I go further, let me explain the keywords. Uganda is a landlocked country in East Africa. Indian Ocean is shared by 18 countries, including Somalia, Mozambique, Madagascar, Kenya, and Tanzania, and so many others. Before I go further, let me outline my points. My first point: economic growth for the region, strength East Africa cooperation, reducing trade costs. Kenya will still control its territory. Let me explain my points. Economic growth for region. If Uganda gets official access to Indian Ocean through Kenya, both countries will benefit. Uganda will be able to import and export goods faster and cheaper, and also Kenya will gain both fees, transport income, and a strong trade partnership. My second view, strengthening East Africa cooperation is sharing ocean access promotes unity in East Africa. It encourages cooperation, peace, economic development, and economic integrations. Just like how Rwanda and Burundi use Tanzania boats safely without conflicts. My third point, reducing transport costs. Uganda depends heavily on Kenya, Mombasa boats, giving Uganda potential right or especially economic zone to Indian Ocean will cut transport delays and costs. This means cheaper goods, better trade, and strong markets. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable, for telling us that sharing borders creates economic stability and peace. Now let me call the last opposer, Honorable Aliyah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aliyah Yusuf Abdi, and I'm opposing the motion, which is that Uganda, as a landlocked country sharing borders with Kenya, should grant the right to own and share access to the Indian Ocean with Kenya. I will be presenting two main points, and please listen to it very well. The first one, sovereignty and territorial integrity. The international law facts. Under the international laws, especially the UN chapter, every country has the full sovereignty over its land and waters. Kenya's coastline is Kenya's territory, and no country can demand ownership or shared sovereignty over another country's coastline. Borders are permanently unless changed by the treaty, purchase, or war, not by geographical advantage. Why is this point strong? You may ask yourselves. If Uganda is allowed to own and share the Indian Ocean because it's just a landlocked country, it sets a dangerous precedent. Many landlocked countries, there are 44 landlocked countries in the world. Those landlocked countries will start demanding and access the land of other countries. This is not how international laws borders work. My second point, Kenya already provides access through infrastructure, no need of ownership is there. Uganda already uses the port of Mombasa for its imports and exports. This is supported by the Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Agreement, the NCTTA. Uganda uses the Mombasa port, Standard Gauge Railway, and also Kenyan highways. So there is no need of demanding there. Kenya facilitates Uganda's trade with full access, but this is economic but not ownership. There's nothing like ownership there. Granting Uganda ownership or shared access with unnecessary because the system already works. Uganda is already given access to the Mombasa port and the Nairobi Kenya highway, the Kenyan highways. So there is no need of ownership. And as I already told you, the international laws doesn't allow that. So breaking the international laws is also a mistake. I would like to end up by saying this. There are 44 landlocked countries in the world. No one has been granted an ocean ownership through another country. All rely on trade corridors, treaty, and agreements not demanding for not territorial claims. So I would like to say that let Uganda negotiate to use access as already using, but let it not demand the ownership to the Indian Ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable, for telling us that Uganda has been already given access to Mombasa and port, that there is no need for them to own them. Now it's time for rebattling.